Hey everybody, this is Matt Wakeling and you're listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. This is the show I produce in Sydney, Australia. Thank you so much for joining me for episode number 140. Now today I'm joined by American guitarist Michael Staertow, who joins us to talk about spending 7 years on the road with legendary foreigner vocalist Lou Gramm. He gives us some essential sideman tips, talks about Les Pauls, talks up solo Dallas. We talk about paying it forward to the next generation, and we even get a sneak peek of Michael's much anticipated solo EP. Now, before we move over to the interview, I want to give a shout out. I realise over the last few episodes I've been giving shout outs to people doing interesting stuff that I've been really enjoying and engaging in. So this week I want to talk about Simon Refalo, Guitarist. Simon is a great friend of mine. He's been a guest on this show. And he's a fantastic guitar player. He's got a really unique voice, and he's just set up a YouTube channel where he divulges some of his approaches to playing. I love it, so I encourage you to check it out. There are some links in the show notes for that. Also wanted to let you know, and I announced this last week, that I have set up a PayPal tip jar. So if you'd like to securely support the show, you can do so. There'll be links as well in the show notes for you to check that out. All right, Michael Staertow. Man, what a great musician, amazing guitar player, and just a super humble and thoughtful musician. So it was really cool to meet him and discuss his career. Now, Michael's very kindly sent me through a few tracks that will be on his solo EP. It's his much anticipated new release, and I'm going to share, with Michael's permission, some of that with you now. So before we get to our conversation, let's have a listen to Michael in action. This is him blazing over the outro of a Steve Perry cover on the track She's Mine. Michael Staertow, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it. Glad to be here. Big fan of your podcast.
Wow, thank you. That's really, really cool. Man, as we're this is an audio podcast, but as we're speaking, you're sitting on the deck. You're in Rochester, New York. It looks beautiful and sunny.
Absolutely.
Nice time of year. We're in winter, of course, here in Sydney. It's the upside down part of the year for us.
Yeah.
But have you always lived in Rochester?
I'm sorry?
Have you always lived in Rochester? Has that always been home?
I have. I lived on the West Coast for a little while in the mid to late 80s. And actually, I'm only in Rochester for another week now. I'm actually transitioning from Rochester, New York to Nashville. Okay. So I would have had you in my studio, but it's like completely torn down and there's boxes everywhere, and it's pretty crazy right now.
Wow. That's a big move. What's in Nashville? What's the plan there?
It's just, it's a better atmosphere. Got a lot of music stuff going on. I got some things in the works and that I can't really talk about yet, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be fun.
Oh, that's excellent. That's exciting. Good to hear. I mean, especially as we speak, it's mid-July 2020. COVID is rolling on in different forms around the world. Great,
it's crazy.
Great to hear you've got some irons in the fire, as it were.
Yeah. New York is pretty leveled out right now. I'm not actually in the city. I'm about 6 hours northwest of the city, so okay. I'm closer to Buffalo and Lake Ontario and Toronto area. So, we're not seeing too much of our fair share, like the epicenter down in New York City. But it is what it is. You still got to be responsible. You got to be careful, and it's a crazy different world we're living in. I never expected this.
Sure. And what we've been spending the last few months doing, I guess, for you, spending many years on the road, it's been a different kind of year.
Yeah, I've been enjoying a lot of family time. I've been creative. I finished up the third of three songs for an instrumental EP that I've been working on
Oh, excellent.
for a long time, and I finally have it all completed. And just trying to figure out the right time to release it and unleash it to the world.
Fantastic, fantastic. I was going to ask about that because of course you had a solo album, Oxygen, that was out uh, quite a few years ago, 2001, I think.
Yeah, a long
Uh,
time ago.
yeah, I mean you've been obviously super busy playing with musical superstars and traveling the globe, which we'll talk about. But that's cool to hear
Yeah,
you're doing your own stuff.
yeah, it's really exciting. It's good to be creative. In addition to writing with some other people as well, getting to do my own material and just getting that out of my system is really, really, really refreshing. So I've been using a lot of this downtime to be able to do that, to do just that, and being able to collaborate with other people too. So it's been really exciting.
Excellent, excellent. Um,
Making making lemonade out of lemons, right?
that's it. That's it. That's what they say. Good to hear. Now, full disclosure, I heard you on Jude Gold's podcast.
Uh,
I think that's maybe a couple of years ago now. I loved that interview. It was like at midnight or something after a gig or
yeah,
something.
yeah. Jude's great. Yeah, me and Jude became really good friends. We did a show together. I was playing with Lou, and he was playing with Jefferson Starship, and we did it down in New York City. Not New York City, but I think it was Long Island. It was a festival type thing, and we hit it off immediately. And then we kind of kept in touch. And I'm a big fan of his playing, and I was a big fan. I still am a big fan of his podcast. I mean, I was a regular listener of his podcast, and yours as well. I listen to podcasts when I travel. I download them to my phone and throw the ears on when I'm on the plane, and just enjoy myself and just get away and just escape a little bit and listen to other people. And I really enjoy podcasts. Jude's is one of them that I really enjoyed, and to be a guest on his show was amazing. And we did it right here at my house, and we called it the Midnight Podcast because he had a show here in town. And I went to the show, and then we were going to go back to the hotel and do it. And he said, "Well, how far do you live from the gig?" And I was like closer to where he was playing than the hotel, so we just came here and fired it up in my living room and just kind of enjoyed the stars and enjoyed the outdoors and then did our thing, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah,
Nice, nice. One of the tracks I heard in that podcast was your version of "Beautiful," the Christine
yes,
Aguilera tune,
yes,
and written by who wrote that? It was the Three Non Blondes.
yeah, Perry, Linda Perry.
Yeah, Linda Perry. Yeah, and the mega producer that she is now. Yeah. Um, but your version, we just heard a little bit of that, but beautiful. Is that going to be on the EP?
Yep, that's one of the three. Yep, there's I did the Christina Aguilera song because Christina's vocals are so. I mean, she's over the top. She's an amazing vocalist, and I often refer to her as like the Yngwie Malmsteen of vocals because she riffs all the time and in a good way.
Yeah.
And that particular song was so uncharacteristic of her vocal style, and it just really resonated. The message resonated with me as well as the song, and I always wanted to do an instrumental version of it and try to be very as expressive as she is with her voice on the guitar. And I thought there was an extreme challenge, and I was up for the challenge. And as you heard a little bit of it, which I can send you a copy of it. I thought it came out great, and I thought everyone that participated on it was fantastic. And in fact, the person who uh, mixed the audio of her original track with Linda Perry actually mixed this version of it. So that was a real treat to
Wow.
have him do it.
That is so cool. That is great. Interesting. Your vocal. You mentioned the vocals
Yeah.
because you sing. You're a great singer. That's been a big part of your sideman gig, I guess. I mean, obviously you're hired to play the guitar and do an amazing job. But how important has it been for you to develop your vocal chops in terms of being a working guitarist?
Yeah, I've always sang. Even before I played guitar, I sang. So it was pretty easy. I mean, it came naturally, not easy. I had to work at it like everything else, but it was very natural to play and sing. And it seemed like that always kind of gave me an edge on competition. If I was going out for a gig and the other player was a monster player but didn't sing, it seemed to be a little bit of a leg up being able play, proficiently and be able to sing as well, because I think that's, that's a big asset to have as a guitar player, to be able to sing and play. So, I think it really brings a lot to the table.
Do you think it informs your guitar playing in any way? Being aware of vocal phrasing and nuance?
I do. I find that I notice a lot of players, like for instance, Bonnie Raitt. I listen to her the vibrato in her guitar playing, and it reminds me of her vocal vibrato. I don't know if I see that in my own singing, in my
Okay.
own playing. I don't really pay attention that close enough to that. I just kind of do it, and I leave it to others to make the comparison or analyze it.
Sure, sure.
So, I just kind of do what I do, and I don't think about it. So,
Yeah, sure. You mentioned being on the road with Lou. Obviously, talking about Lou Gramm, the
yeah.
voice of Foreigner, the original singer for Foreigner, and guy with an amazing solo career as well. That was a long-term gig for you.
Yeah, that was almost. I spent 7 years with that gig, and it was a great gig. I mean, I really couldn't have asked for a better opportunity. And Lou is an amazing human being. I'm honored to be friends. They've become friends with him, although I knew him before. I got to know him in a much different capacity, and he's just an amazing guy, and what a powerhouse vocalist. I mean, and just a great guy to work for and a great guy to be around. I mean, I can't say enough great stuff about Lou. He gave me a great opportunity, and I really am grateful for it. I took it seriously and didn't take it for granted, and it was a great ride. And I was sorry to see it go, but all good things come to an end.
Sure, sure. He was a Rochester guy as well, wasn't he?
He still is. Yep. He left
Wow.
Rochester, I think, when Foreigner, you know, became prominent, and then he came back several years later, and then he's remained ever since. And yeah, it's a staple to see him around town and stuff like that, and it's cool.
Nice, nice. Was his brother playing drums when you were?
Yeah, his brother Ben. Yep, his brother Ben plays drums, and he's an accomplished drummer as well. I mean, he played with Rupert Holmes on the Pina Colada song. It's a pretty notable
Oh,
song.
really? Wow.
Yeah, he was with Peter Frampton for a little while. He played with Yoko Ono for a little bit, and there's probably a couple other things that I can't remember. But he's an amazing drummer and an amazing musician as well, all around singer. I think he plays trumpet as well. I mean, he's an amazing guy, and I'm grateful to have him as a friend as well.
Yeah, very cool. How do you approach a gig like that? Because you're covering obviously the foreigner material with such memorable guitar parts, and then Lou's own solo career, as I mentioned. I know in Australia, Midnight Blue was a massive hit. I mean, it was everywhere, I guess. I
Yeah,
remember
it's a great song.
jamming on that in the garage with my mates. Just the intro, that's all we knew. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. So iconic.
yeah. So how do you approach those parts and still keep some of yourself in there?
I approached it with an authenticity attitude. Like I really wanted to be as authentic as possible. I really want to wrap my head around, in the regards to the foreigner material. I wanted to wrap my head around the Mick Jones style and try to really get a grasp and understand how he wrote songs, how he played the guitar. And one of the things I did is I went back and listened to Spooky Tooth, the band he was in before Foreigner, and just tried to research him, and then dug into the material and really tried to replicate it. And I've spoken about this before, and I think this is really important when you're approaching any gig like this of this magnitude, with such iconic songs. You have to you have to really replicate the songs. It's not your job to reinvent them. Now, having said that, Lou was very gracious, and he would allow me or encourage me many times to, inject a little bit of my own personality into the songs, which I did very infrequently. I mean, I did a little bit here and there, but I really wanted to, pay regard and respect the original compositions like they were supposed to be, because as a fan, that's the way I want to hear it as well. I mean, I really wasn't interested in hearing somebody else go, you know, Tommy Thayer jumping in Ace Frehley's position and hearing his version of it. And speaking of Tommy, he does an amazing job
Hmm.
at replicating Ace Frehley's parts, and everybody that followed. I mean, he's an amazing example of just that. So, that's what I tried to do. I just tried to really be as authentic and pay as much respect and have the highest regard for the material, and try to replicate it as much as possible.
Sure, sure. How about in terms of tones? How close were you chasing those iconic sort of guitar tones?
Yeah, that played a big part of it too. I mean, I really wanted to have that. I really wanted to have that tone authenticity as well. And I realized that there was a dynamic between Mick and Lou that was deliberate, and I think that's what made them the powerhouse that they were. So that was a real important aspect that I needed to do to drive that inspiration and probably keep that gig. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people looked at that gig as like, wow, this is really easy, but they probably took it for granted of the intricacies of it. I mean, it's very sophisticated. It doesn't seem that way, but it's very deliberate. I mean, the songwriting is impeccable. The guitar parts are deliberate. I mean, everything, the composition. I mean, from A to Z, it's perfection. I mean, and the set list. I mean, I'm sure that you might want to ask about that too. I mean, it's like cheating because there's so many hits, and we would do shows with other artists with just as comparable set lists, but they would come over and look at our set list and go, "Oh my God, these are all hits!" And even though they weren't my hits, it was a real privilege to be able to play that night after night after night.
Yeah. The I can just imagine every intro, just the crowd would go nuts after a couple of bars.
Oh, and that's it's beautiful. It's like as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, feels it the first time. Oh yeah, Double Vision. Oh yeah, Urgent.
Oh, man,
you just know the song.
So good. Hey, it's true what you say about the subtlety too, because there's some nuances in the writing. There's always a little chord twist or something in some of that foreigner stuff that you got to look out for. Some of the turnarounds, they don't turn around the same way at the end of every cycle or whatever.
Right. And one of the real interesting songs is "Feels It the First Time." I've noticed that I've watched a lot of other people play it, and they kind of miss the fingering that Mick uses. He'll play these F shapes, like an open F, but he slides them up, and then he'll use a bass note. He'll use an extra finger on the A string to use a bass note. Like, for instance, another good example would be like with Hot Blooded. It's open G, and then there's an F with a C bass that's really overlooked. A lot of people play it as a regular C power or whatever. Yeah. But you got to throw that bass note in there. The C over F. So you got to have it in there because it really makes a difference between somebody playing it correctly versus somebody just kind of playing it.
Yeah. So when you say the F with the C, that's that A string, that root note on the A string you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
So you're layering extra bass note, and I think it's the third. I think it is. I can't remember what interval is off the top of my head right now. I don't have a guitar in front of me, but yeah, it's very prominent in there, and it really makes a difference when you're playing it, authentically versus kind of hacking your way through it.
Yeah, awesome. Now, my next question is a no-brainer for anyone who knows anything about you. But what guitars are you lugging around for those gigs and just every single day since?
I am a super fan of the Gibson Les Paul.
Yeah,
I've been a Les Paul player, Les Paul fan since I was a kid, and it just really is a tough habit to shake. I mean, I have other guitars as well, but I don't deviate too much. I find exactly what I need from that guitar, and I'm able to chameleon it to most projects that I do. So
okay. Do you remember the first time you became aware of the Les Paul? So when you were growing up and you think, okay, I recognize that guitar now.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember we mentioned Ace Frehley a minute ago. I remember seeing Ace on Kiss Alive, the original Kiss Alive record. And, just the images of him. And of course, as a kid, we didn't have videos and stuff like that. So we had to rely on magazines or every once in a while on TV. But yeah, that image just really, really resonated with me. And early pictures of Neil Schon and Santana on album covers and just different artists that would play that guitar. For me, that just something about the shape of it before I even held one in my hands and even knew what it felt like to play it. It just seemed like, almost a status symbol of success. I mean, if you were if you were a Les Paul player, you obviously had arrived. You were successful. You were accomplished. It just, for me, it was just a symbol of that. And when I got my first Les Paul, it was like, it was just felt so much comfortable, and I just felt like I was on the right trajectory.
Yeah, wow. Funny you mentioned Ace. My very first electric was inspired by Ace.
Oh yeah.
I didn't get a Les Paul. I didn't know what it was, but I got something that was vaguely sunburst.
Sure.
Some crazy, but a little bit sunburst. And I'm like, yes, this is the Ace guitar. So,
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
times.
absolutely.
What was your first Les Paul?
My first Les Paul, real Les Paul, was a mid 70s, I think 74-ish Les Paul custom.
Awesome.
And prior to that, I had a copy, a Vantage Les Paul copy, which is a really, really nice Les Paul. But I had been playing in a band with a bunch of friends from school, and we were all on the baseball team, and we jumped into a couple of talent shows. And I kind of set a goal for myself, and I said, if we win these 2 talent shows, with my share of the money and whatever I had saved up, I wanted to buy a real Les Paul, and that was kind of my goal. And I was able to do that. And again, it was a sunburst because of Ace Frehley and gold hardware and stuff. And I really wish I still had that guitar, because I believe it or not, I probably sold it for just a little more than I bought it for, to go to spring break on vacation with my buddies. And it was really stupid for me to do that. I really regret. I mean, I had a great time at spring break, but not that. Yeah, it was a bad decision.
We've all got those gear stories.
Absolutely.
Man, a 74 custom, that must have been pretty heavy.
It was heavy, and but it was a great guitar. I mean, it was. It just sounded great, played great, and I'm sorry to see it go. In fact, as I'm packing to move, I found some pictures in my storage items, and I found some pictures of me playing and pictures of that guitar, and it really tugged at my heartstrings. I wish I could find that guitar.
Man,
I would buy it back in a minute.
That's an SOS out there into the universe. I'll stop asking because I feel bad bringing it up.
No, it's okay. I think I paid like $500 for it.
Okay.
And I think I sold it for like $550, and it's just like, it's insane, because I don't think you can buy a Les Paul custom from 1974 for maybe 5,000 now, but not 500.
Yeah. Do you have a Les Paul recipe? Because it looks like you own a bunch of them. Do you have like a go-to in terms of hardware, pickup, neck profile, whatever?
Yeah, neck profile is real important to me. I'm a big fan of Custom Shop guitars. They're a custom shop. I've been playing 58 reissues, the R8s, and I really, really love the neck profile. It's big, it's fat, it's beefy, and I was intimidated at first when I was told that it was fat and beefy, because I had played some regular slimline, more 60 styles neck. And when I picked this one up, I was like, wow, I love this guitar. I couldn't put it down. So every subsequent Les Paul that I bought from the custom shop after that, I needed to have similar beefy necks. And I find it hard to go back to a thinner profile neck now. I just really like the way it feels.
Do you think it contributes to the tone, or more just the feel in the hand?
I think it contributes to all of it. I think that a little bit extra mass probably helps with the tone, and definitely the feel inspires me to play a certain way.
Yeah, I saw you were working on the solo Dallas booth. At NAMM. Tell me about that.
Were you there?
No, I was like 5,000 Ks away, but I was
Phil,
paying attention.
Phil, who owns Solo Dallas, is an amazing human being. The product he makes, the tower, the boost pedal, and the storm pedal. I use a storm pedal on my pedal board, to staple on my pedal board to drive, just to take a Marshall just a little bit over. That technology is amazing, and the history of that in and of itself is pretty cool. Have you had him on your show yet?
No, I've heard him though. He is like a powerhouse. He's got so much energy.
You need to have him on your show. He's the AC/DC authority, and he's the Schaefer Vega. He's the carrier of the throne for that Schaefer Vega wireless, the True Diversity system. I mean, that really is a remarkable piece of technology that he's been able to put into a pedal. Even the tower. I don't have a tower, but I played through the tower, and I need to get one. I need to get one from that. So Phil, if you're listening, make sure you send me one, buddy.
Yeah, it's a cool story. Hey, he went through all the parts of Angus's rig and found out it was the wireless having the most unique impact. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he's got it dialed in too, because I mean he knows that tone inside and out, and as a player he's amazing. I mean, the two of us hit it off because of our passion for Angus Young and Malcolm Young, and you know, when I do his booth, we just get done. We just jam, and we always get in trouble by the sound police, the DB police. That but I mean, it's like it calls for just energy, and you know, it's just a great. If no one's heard of Solo Dallas and his technology and his products, definitely check him out. It's an amazing product, and he's an amazing ambassador of that. Well, I'm trying to personify it. There's really not one word to personify it. It's like so much that concept, that sound, that tone, that energy that you get from his little device. It's amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, it's so iconic. If any producer ever says give it some Angus or give it some Malcolm, every guitar player in the world knows exactly what that means.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Malcolm, you know, everybody, when people think of AC/DC, and I love Angus, one of my early influences as well. But when you talk about AC/DC, people don't realize that the 1-2 punch is Malcolm. He's the real drive behind that band. I mean, not to take anything away from Angus, but Malcolm, you know, as a rhythm guitar player, that's really important to be an amazing rhythm guitar player, as you would know from, you know, other powerhouse guitar players. Eddie Van Halen. I mean, a lot of people don't give him as much credit as he deserves for his rhythm playing. I mean, Eddie's the king of swing. He's, you know, his rhythm playing is just as important as his lead playing. I mean, you know, two disciples and monsters of drive. It's just incredible.
Absolutely. Talking about heroes, you've shared the stage with a few of yours. You've jammed with people like Neil Schon and Howard Leese. I saw a shot of you with Buddy Guy. Tell me about meeting those guys.
So the Neil Schon, I didn't actually share the stage with Neil Schon at the same time, but we were, when I was playing with Lou, we were direct support for Journey, and that was pretty incredible. In fact, the first show we did with them, we were in San Juan, Puerto Rico, in a 20,000 seat arena, and for me, it was, you know, just being able to, and I've met Neil before, but in this capacity, being able to be on the same bill with him and sharing the stage with him is the same stage, different times, but it's incredible. It was surreal for me because that's pretty much the guy who resonated with me the most. Neil is probably my biggest influence. And one thing about that first show that I'll never forget was when we went on stage and we got on stage and played our first song. I looked over to my left, which is complete opposite side of the stage, and I looked over and all the guys from the band were standing on the side of the stage watching us play our first couple songs.
How about Howard Leese from Heart?
Yeah, Howard and I met when we did a TV show for ABC Networks. We did a Holiday on Ice event down in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was Paul Rogers and Lou Gramm, and Howard is Paul's guitar player in a solo band, and I believe as well as a solo band. He definitely is the Bad Company guitar player, and that was the first time we met, and we became fast friends because the interesting thing about that was we used the same amp backline, so the same head, same bottoms, but I played my guitar and used my pedals as he did the same with him. And, we had to rehearse during the day while the skaters did their thing and they did all their pre-production with the filming crew for broadcast. And we were in a catering area, and I had never met Howard up at that point, but been raised listening to Heart and a big fan of his playing since I was a kid. And in the catering area, Howard came up to me and said, he said, "Hi, my name's Howard." And I introduced myself, and I was thrilled to meet him. And he said, "Let me ask you a question." He goes, "What kind of pickups do you have in your guitar?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, there's just stock custom buckers that come in the pickup." Because I'm just sitting here listening to you play, and I can't figure out why it sounds so much better when you play through the rig than when I play through the rig. And I'm like thinking I got punked. I'm looking around going, okay, who's playing the joke now? And I said to him, I said, well, I was thinking the exact same thing. Why does it sound so much? I mean, obviously because it's Howard Leese. What is he doing that I'm not doing, playing out of the same amps? And it's just ironic that he said that to me. And ever since then we become friends, and all the shows that we've done together, we hang out a little bit, and I'll stand and watch him play, and it's never less than a thrill when I see him standing on the side of the stage watching our set and checking out what we're doing, and it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, wow. How about jamming with Buddy Guy?
Buddy Guy was at a Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp event in Chicago. I think it was 2018, and that was powerful because what's there to say about Buddy Guy? I mean, he influenced Jimi Hendrix, he influenced Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, this guy he's the real deal, and he's in his 80s, I believe. Nice guy, quiet. We participated with my camper band, people that attend Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and generally, I don't know if you know anything about Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. These are generally adults. I think people think that there are a lot of kids. There are kids that join as well, but mostly it's adults. And we got an opportunity to play one song with Buddy Guy, and I think the song was 5 Long Years. And we got up there, and my particular camper band had 3 guitar players, including me, and including Buddy Guy. So there was several guitar players on stage, and I kind of tucked away in the back, and I was right next to Buddy Guy. And the interesting thing about that was understanding the magnitude of his contributions to music and the blues in general, I told all my players, I said, you need to stay out of Buddy's way. This is Buddy's club. This is Buddy's stage. And, we need to respect that. Everybody was enthusiastic. Everybody wanted to play what they've been rehearsing. And when it came to playing myself with Buddy, I found myself trying to listen to him and what he was playing. And I tried to stay out of his way as much as possible. And ironically, every time I would play a certain thing, which I thought was sparse enough, he would mimic what I played. And I was like, okay, well, let me figure out what I got to do here. So I tried something different and stayed out of his way. And then he kind of replicated that as well. Almost like he was saying, listen, young boy, this is my stage. You're not going to, so I turned down as far as I could, and I played as little as and as you've seen in that clip I posted,
yeah.
I tried to stay out of his way and really realized that this is an amazing opportunity, and wanted him to leave with the same amount of enthusiasm as I was leaving with.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was quite a thrill, man. I mean, getting to be on stage with, he's one of I think he's the only one left out of that whole group of blues generation, right? I mean, is there 1 or 2 of them left, or is he the only guy left?
I think he seems to be the main guy, yeah. And then I guess it's passed over to there's Clapton, of course, who grew up with him, and well, not with him, but followed on, I guess. Right. But yeah. Amazing.
But as far as that generation, I think
yes.
he's the last remaining, and what a treasure. I mean, great guy. He was so polite. He was so just a great guy. It was a thrill.
You've done a bunch of teaching. So the fantasy camp, as you mentioned, I know you've done some School of Rock stuff, and you've I guess in the downtime you've been able to do some Skype lessons and stuff in the last.
Absolutely.
What do you enjoy about teaching?
I love being able to share, my gift, my experiences, and my knowledge on the guitar. I mean, I really think that this is something. It's a gift for one, and it's something that needs to be shared, and it's something that needs to be passed along. And it really seems like there's a lot of young people that aren't really interested in the arts in the capacity that I was when I was growing up. And if I could influence younger kids or anybody to pursue the instrument and become proficient at it, I think that that's an important thing to be able to pass along. And I really enjoy being able to share my knowledge. I mean, I tell all my students, I mean, I'll teach everything I know. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to be proprietary or guarded with anything. If somebody carries it on, I mean, when I see my past students going on to, enjoy the instrument in whatever capacity they enjoy it, I get a big kick out of it. And I hear a lot from a lot of past students of how I've impacted their lives or helped them develop their talent. And I mean, that's just amazing to be able to, what do you say to that? I mean, it just gives me chills, and it makes me feel like, that I've contributed positive to society. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, a lot of bad people doing bad stuff out there, and I really want to try to make a difference. And I don't want to say leave a mark, because it might be a little bit too aggressive of a term, but just make a contribution to the guitar world and be able to pass along a little bit of knowledge.
I think you're definitely doing that, and more. You're obviously very humble, and you won't say it, but I'll say it then. I think you meeting Buddy Guy and Neil Schon and those guys, there'll be a generation of musicians saying, "Man, I got to jam with Michael Staertow." Or
I don't know about that, but if people say that, then I'm very flattered. I'm very honored. It's a privilege to be able to have people say that about me.
That's so cool. That's awesome. It's been so fun speaking with you. I've got one last question, and it's based on something you posted. Now I'm paraphrasing, so let me know if I've got this wrong. But you're saying it's more important to be valuable than successful. What does that mean?
I think that's a multi-dimensional statement. I think that, you could apply that to any aspect of your life. I think if you bring value to somebody, and then that's not necessarily meaning a monetary value, but just the quality of contribution, friendship, being a dad, being a husband, being a son, being a cousin, an uncle, if you can do that with integrity and bring value to somebody else's life, where they're proud to be associated with you, they're proud to be, part of you and look to you for advice and look to you for guidance. I think that that kind of is success. You're successful if you're able to do that for somebody. You know what I mean? It's I was always taught, don't do something for somebody expecting something in return. Make sure you do something for somebody because you wanted to do it. And I try to do that as much as possible. And I heard a really great quote today. I was watching a Facebook Live broadcast with my friend Matt Starr, a drummer from Ace Frehley's band. And he quoted another mutual friend, Mark Schulman, who's a drummer for Pink and Cher, and he also played with Foreigner. And he said, your net value is your network value, or something to that effect. Maybe I screwed that up, but I think your worth is the quality and the type of people that you surround yourself with, and you got to be really picky and choosy about who you want to be around and who you want to associate with, because one wrong move and your ripple effect could be pretty devastating. So I always try to stay on a straight and narrow and do the right thing and just try to be kind and pass along a nicety and smile and just say hi to somebody and just be nice, be kind. I think the world could, not to get too philosophical on you, but the world could use a lot more kindness and love and a little bit of paying it forward than everyone with their hand out looking for something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, agree 100%. 100%. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. It's been really cool to meet you. We've been electronically linked for a little while through social media and stuff, but really cool to meet you face to face or Skype to Skype and
likewise.
Talk through your career. Hey, please let us know what's happening with your solo stuff as well, and when you get settled in Nashville, we'll definitely be following your career with great interest there as well. Good luck with the move.
Awesome. Thank you. And, thank you for having me, and love your podcast and all your listeners. Thank you for taking the time to give us a listen. If you're listening still, if you haven't turned it off already, but Matt, I will send you a copy of the EP so you can check it out.
Love to hear that. Thanks, Michael. Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there you go, Michael Staertow. So great to have him on the show. I'm going to get him to play us out. This is a track called Pandemic Groove. Thanks for joining me on the Guitar Speak podcast. I'll catch you next time.